Hello, everyone. I would like to start by saying that I do not in any way, shape, or form consider myself a racist. I do not consider myself a white supremacist. In fact, I'm very opposed to both of these points of view. I'm very opposed to racism, very opposed to white supremacy and neo-Nazis. I'm opposed to all of that. I just don't agree with any of that. I'm opposed to it. So, that being out of the way, if you're disappointed, too bad. Just want to move on and say that I just want to explain to people why it is that some white people don't seem to care about Black lives. And I'll tell you right now, I have a friend who's she's part white and part Asian, and she's in therapy now. She's actually in therapy. She took part in the protests, and she was there at night, and she photographed some burning buildings, and now she's in therapy. And this is what happens to white folk who get very concerned about Black lives. We have a mental breakdown. I don't know if you think it's white fragility or not. I don't know if you believe in white fragility, but we can't handle it. It's too much. It's too much. It overwhelms our sensibilities. We get so upset. We get so worried. We get so bent out of shape. We actually need therapy. So, just a heads up. You may not realize the effect this has had on white people, but it's affected them very deeply. Most of us have been affected very deeply by this. My mom gets so upset she actually goes to bed. She can't handle it. It's just too big of a problem, and it's too much. It's too much for anyone to handle, and it just gets people really upset, and it gets people really bent out of shape, and it's hard to talk about. It's hard to deal with. People who are having an easy time of this, people who are having an easy time of this, are the people that right up here just don't care, okay? People that really don't care, that don't get riled up, that don't get emotional, that don't get upset, that just have strong political or intellectual opinions, but who really don't care and don't get upset and don't get riled up. They're the ones who are talking right now, okay? It's the people that don't care that are doing all the talking. And it's because it doesn't get them upset. It doesn't get them upset. It doesn't get them emotional. They don't care what people think of them either. Really, they don't care. And so those are the people who are doing all the talking. Not a good situation. Not good at all. And this issue is polarizing America. Well, what does polarization mean? What is that? It's basically where we okay, let's say 40 years ago, or even less than that, 30 years ago. 30 years ago would have been in the 90s, okay? America looked like this. Here was the liberals, and here was the Republicans, the conservatives. And they were kind of like this. The liberals are here, the Republicans are here. There was a lot of overlap in the middle. America was mostly moderate. 30 years ago, mostly moderate. Now today, what we've seen happen over the past 30 years is that it's shifted like this. It's gone like this. And now there's a big hole in the middle where there's no moderates. And everybody's either very liberal or very conservative. And there's no moderates left. And this is a real problem that there's no moderates left. Everybody has gone to extremes. And why is this a problem? Why should we care? Why should we even care? Why should we care about the polarization of America? What difference does it make to me? What difference does it make to you? Why should we care about the polarization of America? Well, I'll tell you right now why. It's because it's costing black people their lives. People are dying because of our polarization. So polarization is actually not a good thing. And those moderates who are left over, who have been left behind, who still exist, that are still in existence, they get thrown right under the bus. They get thrown right under the bus by everyone. Everyone shuns them. Everyone shuns them. No, literally no one agrees with a moderate anymore. And nobody wants to take a moderate point of view. Nobody wants to step into a situation, except maybe Biden is a moderate, possibly, although he's become polarized too. He's changed. But somebody who could step into a situation and say, this side has good points, that side has good points, you all have good points, but you also have bad points. And let's take the good points and combine them together, toss out the bad points. There's no one who can do that anymore. And there's no one who's willing to even admit that the other side might have good points or bad points. Now, why has this happened? Why has this happened? I can tell you why this has happened. It's the media. The media has led us to become polarized. They've led us astray. And it's not just liberal media, it's conservative media too. Okay? The media has polarized America, and the media has led us astray. There's no more players that are willing to get in the center and patch things up between the two sides and come up with policy solutions. There's no one who's willing to do this anymore because people are all for their side, and it's always a game. It's always a political game. These liberals and conservatives are both playing the liberal and conservative games that they play, where they play against each other and they want to bring home the bacon for their side, even when they agree. Even when they agree on a subject, they want the power. They want all the power, all the glory, all the credit. And so they fight each other and they say, well, you'll have to change this one thing, or we're rejecting everything you have to say. We're not going to accept it. We're not going to let you take credit for this. This is our bill. It's not your bill. And there's never any cooperation. There's never any agreement, and things aren't getting passed. That might be helpful. I don't know if laws are all that helpful, but the ones that are getting passed, I can tell you right now, are harmful. So, because of the bickering, because of the disagreement, because of wanting everything their way, things are not getting passed. Same thing happened in Minnesota. The legislature in Minnesota, they were playing partisan politics again. That they did not pass any meaningful legislation. They couldn't even agree. The liberals rejected it. The Democrats rejected it. They couldn't even agree to ban a chokehold. They couldn't even agree on that. They couldn't agree to ban a chokehold. The Republicans proposed to ban a chokehold. They said, no, that's not good enough. We want to pardon felons, and we want this and we want that, and that's not good enough. That's not good enough. We want We want you to conform. We want Republicans to conform to our radical ideology. Republicans wouldn't do it, so nothing got passed. What do you think of that? And it's going to cost more people their lives because they wouldn't pass the legislation. The law is an ugly, ugly thing because everyone knows what's right intuitively. Everyone knows that chokeholds are wrong. But they can't get the legislation passed because of political bickering. And then it's still legal to do these chokeholds, all right? People can still go out there, do a chokehold, kill somebody, and it's perfectly legal because they didn't pass a damn piece of paper, a damn law, damn legislation. That bites. That totally bites. I can understand why some people are opposed to the law because of this partisan bickering, right? This bipartisan ego glorification. And Republicans started it supposedly. And supposedly they've been playing the game for years. They've been playing the game for years that they won't accept any legislation unless it's in their name and something they propose directly. And taking home all the credit, all the glory, bringing home the bacon to their constituents and getting things their way all of the time and not compromising at all. And then the liberals did the same thing, and now it's just total warfare because no one's willing to compromise anymore. So polarization is a bad, bad thing. And it's something we don't want. Something we don't want. We want more moderates. We want a more moderate America. We don't want an extreme America. Now, what do I mean by extremism? What kind of extremism could there possibly be? Aren't liberals always right? Aren't conservatives always wrong? How could there possibly be any middle ground? Well, I'll be honest with you. I am ready to have a break from liberalism and from the Democratic Party just over this one issue. This one issue is so important to me. One issue is so important to me that I'm willing to have a break with the Democratic Party over it. What issue could be so important that I'm willing to make a break with the Democratic Party? Well, the issue is Black lives. And what makes me think that liberals don't care about Black lives? Aren't they the ones who came up with Black Lives Matter? Wasn't it liberals? And haven't they been advancing the Black cause in America for, I don't know, hundreds of years? Well, not necessarily. Today's liberal is not like the liberal of yesterday. It's not. The liberal of today isn't anything like JFK or Bobby Kennedy or even Martin Luther King Jr. The liberal of today, they're just very, very extreme. I'll give you an example. There's this man named Robin DiAngelo. He's a white guy. And he wrote a book. And the thing that he invented was white fragility. And basically, I read about this. I didn't like what he was saying because I disagreed with about it. I could see some of his points. He had some good points, but about half the things I saw I disagreed with and didn't really think that applied to me or to white people in general. I saw a website the other day and he was saying point blank, do you know that white people are born racist out of their mother's wombs? And if you disagree with me and that makes you feel uncomfortable, then you've already proven my point. Now I knew there was something wrong with this. Okay, so I asked a philosophy major, where's the logical flaw in this? Philosophy major, what's the logical flaw? Well, it's a circular argument. The conclusion, the argument is dependent upon the conclusion. In other words, the argument presupposes the conclusion. At the conclusion, the argument is dependent upon the conclusion. So that's a logical flaw. This guy's a real genius, isn't he? He's a real genius to come up with this philosophy that white people are born, which is racist to begin with. I know you don't think. I know you've made up these rules and these unspoken laws that you can't have racism against a white person, that's just not possible. That's just not possible. Racism means discrimination against black people, right? And maybe other people of color, other minorities, that you can't have discrimination against the white race. But it is possible, and this Robin DiAngelo hates his own race, and he hates white people, and he thinks they were born racist out of their mother's wombs, and that everyone that disagrees with him has just proven his point because of their white fragility. In other words, disagreeing with him makes us fragile. We're weak. We're weak. That's what he's basically saying. White fragility means we're weak because we disagree. So if you feel that white people are born racist out of their mother's wombs, more power to you. Go ahead and believe that. If you believe you were born a racist, go ahead and get yourself a whip and flagellate yourself on the back every single day, like that guy from the Da Vinci Code. But if you don't believe that and you are not really into self-flagellation, then this Robin DiAngelo guy is a real slime. And my professor made me read about white fragility. She made me read an article by this Robin DiAngelo. And also, white fragility is part of systemic racism. So whenever you hear the word systemic racism, one of the things that's a part of their theory, their grand unified theory of everything and everyone is a racist. Their grand unified theory, part of that is white fragility. So when you think of white fragility, think I was born a racist out of my mother's womb, because that's what they're saying when they say white fragility. And when you think systemic racism, think of white fragility. Think of implicit bias, where even if you're not an overt racist, that you're secretly doing and saying things that are racist, and just being part of society, and participating in the system makes you a racist. So anyone could be a racist. Everyone could be a racist. Even a black person might be racist against another black person. So everyone's a racist. That's what systemic racism means. Everyone is a racist. That's what it's supposed to mean by the people who invented it. But it's been commandeered to mean police brutality, which is not what it means. That's only part of it. It's been shoehorned onto it. So there's more. I did not know this, but my last video I made, it's considered a very conservative viewpoint. Practically all of these liberal news media outlets, I did not know this, but all of these liberal news media outlets consider even the mention of what is termed black on black violence is considered racist. You're a racist if you even mention black on black violence. You're a racist. If you try to tackle this issue, you're a racist. You're a racist. You're a racist. So they all said it. Vox said it. CNN said it. The Cleveland said it. Whole bunch of these liberal news media outlets. First 10 search results on Google, which is also liberal. They all universally condemned the mention, not just using as an excuse, which they do consider it an excuse, but even the mention of black on black racism is considered racist. It's the unmentionable. It's the unmentionable because it's so racist. And so it's an issue that goes unaddressed. It goes unaddressed because it's been labeled a racist. Basically, the people who were the protesters carrying signs that said, "Your silence costs people their lives. Silence equals death." But then what is the liberal news media doing? They're encouraging silence, and have for years and years and years and years and years. They've been encouraging silence, where to the point where I was even afraid to do the last video because I knew what the prevailing attitude was and what the niceties were and what people thought and what people think. I knew that there were niceties. I knew that these niceties were costing people their lives. And I put up with it for years because I knew that I would have a nervous breakdown if I tried to confront this issue. I knew I'd have a breakdown. I knew I'd have a nervous breakdown, and I did have a nervous breakdown. I'm still having a nervous breakdown. Liberals relentlessly calling you a racist. Do they even know what racist means? I mean, do they really even have any idea of what racism is or what it means? That's a guy in a hood, right? The guys in the hoods. And I know I'm wearing white, and that must bother you, but these are religious robes. This is my weekly sermon, and these are my religious robes. And they're not in any way racist robes. But these guys dressed all in white with their hoods, that's a racist. Derek Chauvin with his knee on George Floyd's neck, that's a racist. That's a racist. Most people are not racist, but liberals they're racist happy. And they just like to hand out accusations of racism like it's Halloween candy. And they don't care if anyone has a nervous breakdown. Well, you know what people do? They avoid the topic. They avoid the topic. They're not going to discuss it. They're not going to go there. They're not going to touch it. It's forbidden. It's taboo. And they won't touch it. And then people die. And they die every day, and no one cares. I want to tell you a really sad story. It's about Lanisha Columbus. Lanisha Columbus is dead. Say her name. And when you say all the names, when you're done saying all the names, it won't be that people that you can count on the fingers of both hands. It won't be 14 people. It won't be 14 people. You will be blue in the face by the time you're done saying all these names. You will be blue in the face. Okay, Lanisha Columbus, her uncle allegedly believes that it was a romantic interest of Lanisha's that killed her. was a drive-by. She was at a traffic stop. She leaves 2 children behind plus her baby, so that's 3 children. And her baby had to be cut out of her in an emergency surgery, and her baby's on life support, and she is dead. So we don't know right now who done it. Could have been a bad white guy. Could have been. But more likely than not, it was a black guy. So that's black on black violence. And if it's black on black violence, we're not allowed to discuss it. We're not supposed to discuss Lanisha, because if we do, we're racist. So there's a complete media whiteout on this subject. And if you mention it, it's considered a distraction from police brutality, so it can't be mentioned ever because of police brutality. And here's a few reasons I heard for this, okay? One reason that was given for the whiteout on black violence, and the one excuse was that it's a distraction from police brutality, that it's an attempt to say, well, this is worse. This is worse. So why do you care about police brutality when this is worse? Well, the thinking behind that, the thinking behind saying this is worse, is that they're saying, let's defund the police. And this is something they've been wanting for years. For years and years, they've been wanting to defund the police. And not just defund the police, they want to disband the police. They don't want there to be any police. They don't want there to be any prisons. They don't want there to be any judges or criminal justice system. They want that all gone. All of it gone. Utopia, right? And the people of Minneapolis have spoken. The people of Minneapolis have spoken. All the black community leaders got together. They went, after the death of Lanisha, they went to end this wave of crime. It's not just Lanisha. There's been a whole crime wave ever since their announcement that they would disband the police. It's been a crime wave. You would think that since the police were going away, that all the crime would disappear, right? That was the theory of Black Lives Matter, that all the crime would disappear. Everything would be great, that we'd all be singing Kumbaya, and it would be an ideal society. We would have an ideal society if the police were gone. Well, actually, instead, there was a crime wave. People were like, hot dog. This is our lucky opportunity. This is our chance, our golden day. The police will be gone soon. I'll never get prosecuted for this crime. It's open season. It's open season on my enemies. Or anyone else I don't like. It's open season. I can kill anyone and get away with it and with impunity and never get prosecuted for it. So there was a huge crime wave, a huge increase in shootings all across Minneapolis. The leaders went to the city council and said, we do not want utopia. We need the police. We do not want utopia. We need the police. And the council ignored them because they're extremist and they're not about to change their point of view, and they'll just have to be voted out next time. Just have to wait until they're voted out of office. But right now they've voted to disband the police completely. They're disbanding them. They're not just defunding them. They're disbanding them. And they have no plans to replace them with anything. They said that they would have community leaders come out to the scene, or community organizers. That was the words they used. Community organizers are going to replace the police. I don't know how community organizers can replace police. They've had no training in detective work or police work, securing an area. They don't know how to secure an area. They don't know how to secure suspects. They can't really community organizers aren't going to replace police. They don't even know how to dust for fingerprints. Forget it. It's a ridiculous idea, really. So that was one of the theories that was proposed, that it was that we need to disband the police, and that goal of disbanding the police, which is a terrible idea, is that black on black crime is a distraction. So we need to ignore black on black crime. And they've been saying this for many, many, many years, and it's cost lots of lives. So then the other thing was, well, we have crime, and I was distracted by my neighbor. Oh my gosh, I don't want my neighbor listening in. Neighbors, I've just had so many problems with neighbors. I've had them thump on my front door and threaten me before. Just do not trust neighbors at all. Don't trust neighbors. Okay, so the other reasons are these. So another argument that was used was that it really did distract me. It really threw me off. There's been police brutality, and it's unjust. This was another argument people used. They said that Black Lives Matter is an organization. It's not just a slogan. It's not just a cool slogan that you can follow behind. It's an organization called Black Lives Matter. And their primary objective is justice, not lives. So they don't really care about Black lives. It's a cool slogan and it sounds cool, right? And you can get behind it, Black Lives Matter, but that's not what they're about. They don't care about Black lives. They're not about Black lives at all. They're primarily about justice. Justice for police brutality specifically, not justice in general. They don't care about justice in general, just police brutality. Now, if they had called themselves, We Hate the Police, do you think they would have had any backers? Probably not. They probably wouldn't have had as much support if they had called themselves We Hate the Police. But because they called themselves Black Lives Matter, they had plenty of support. People were waving signs. They really believed. They had potential for greatness. And I'm so disappointed in them. I really am. I'm disappointed. They're not necessarily terrorists. I don't believe they're terrorists, although certain individuals that behind Black Lives Matter have acted as if they were terrorists, but they have not condemned these terroristic acts of looting and rioting. They have not condemned this at all. They haven't even condemned the shootings that took place during the riots. They didn't condemn the shootings. They condemned vigilantism, I believe, but they did not condemn rioting. They did not speak out against looting. In fact, they encouraged it, and they said that it was all right. And here's why it was all right: because we're concerned about police brutality, and that's all that matters. So go ahead and do whatever. NPR, it's a liberal news outlet that's been promoting Black Lives Matter. NPR used to be It's associated with NPR, which is National Public Radio. They used to be very serious journalists. They were considered top of the line journalists. Um, Everyone had faith in them. Everyone had confidence in them. You could listen to NPR and get a totally impartial point of view. Well, not anymore. They've been commandeered by far left extremists. Um, they're socialist at best and communist at worst. But they've been promoting Black Lives Matter very actively and saying they're great. And the information about the business owners that were looted was on page 5 or 6, the equivalent of page 5 or 6. It was a web page. The equivalent of page 5 or 6, there were 2 sentences, and it was just to say that the business owners that were looted are actually supporting Black Lives Matter. So it was totally, totally slanted. And NPR also, they just happened to have a moment of cerebral confusion where they reported on something that one of the members of Black Lives Matter said. He was just speaking, because Black Lives Matter is not organized. They have no leaders. They just let anyone speak. And that's part of their problem, because individuals have spoiled it for them. This individual spoke. He came up to the podium and spoke. And he said, if you're an ally, this was on Juneteenth, by the way. If you're an ally, you can go home now. I want an accomplice. What is an accomplice? An accomplice is a participant in a crime. So this guy doesn't want allies. And by ally, code word ally means white. He doesn't want white allies. He wants an accomplice. And so to some sort of crime. I don't know what kind of crime he's planning, but he wants or plotting. He wants. And I think that if you have an organization that's opposed to the police, that it will attract a certain criminal element. It is possible that it'll attract criminal elements and people who want to be rid of the police for personal reasons, because they want to commit crimes, right? So it does attract a certain criminal element. The vast majority of people behind Black Lives Matter right now and who are funding it, who are funneling money into it, are white liberals, especially young people. They've all gotten behind it. They're the ones showing up at the protests. The organizers and certain people behind it are black activists. And I can't really tell you what it is that they believe specifically, because I can't read people's minds, and I don't really know. But I do know that they sincerely believe that the police are causing black-on-black violence. And if we only got rid of the police, if we only eliminated police, then everything would be okay. We would have utopia. Would be they believe in the perfectibility of man, and that would be utopia. There would be no more black on black crime, and that everything would be so carefree, and everything would be perfect, and there would be no more problems if only we would get rid of the police, because the police are frustrating people. And they frustrate them so much. People are so in a snit every single day about the police. And they're so worried, and they're getting pulled over every single day just constantly by the police. And if they're so frustrated that they're taking it out on their fellow black people. And if the police were gone, there would be no more black on black violence either. So the cost of having police is incalculable. But the thing that they don't take into account is, first of all, there'll still be illegal drugs. Maybe no way to enforce against illegal drugs, but there'll still be illegal drugs. There'll still be fierce competition between drug dealers for business of white folk, because it's not just actions against the police that are drug related that cause these crimes. It's also competition between drug dealers, and that's a big part of the problem, is competition between drug dealers. When they have a rival or an opponent or a rival gang or any competition at all, any business rivals or business competition, they just shoot them dead. So there's still going to be drugs tomorrow. There'll still be competition tomorrow. There'll still be a gang culture that says you should shoot people who are your competition tomorrow. There'll still be gangster rap tomorrow. And there'll still be white people wanting to buy drugs. There'll still be people wanting to buy drugs. They'll still have customers. So and there'll still be capitalism. We'll still have a capitalist system. So none of that is going away if we get rid of the police. So it's very doubtful that people will be singing Kumbaya on the street. It's very, very doubtful. Just don't buy it. I don't believe it. Now, so there's that the police are supposedly inciting violence, that they frustrate people so much that they incite violence. And if they were gone, and if the injustice were over, if there were no more racism, which there still will be, since we're all born racist, right? But according to the liberals specifically, if we eliminated the police tomorrow, supposedly people would be less frustrated and they wouldn't commit crimes anymore. So there's that theory. Another theory is that there is no real black on black violence. That's all made up. That's just a lie. That's a dirty, dirty lie. And this makes me mad. I got really mad when I heard this, because I knew that somebody was lying to me. Somebody had to be lying. And I didn't know who it was. I don't know who's lying. I'm not divine. I'm not looking over from above and know who's lying. So it really made me really mad that I was being lied to by somebody. Okay, either the FBI is lying or the Justice Department is lying. One or the other. And this report came from CNN, Vox, and I'm sorry I don't have the links for you. I didn't keep track of the links. I didn't keep good enough track, and I didn't record the links so that I could find it later. But with CNN, Vox, and a couple others were saying very specifically, per capita. These were their exact words, per capita. That if you look at the statistics on crime per capita, that there are no more, that black people are no more likely to commit murder than white people. It's 50-50, same exact likelihood. that the likelihood was 50-50, that they were no more likely. There were just as many white murders per capita as black murders per capita, and that there was no difference. And this made me really angry because I knew somebody had to be lying to me. Either the Justice Department is lying, or the FBI is lying. But either way, somebody had to be lying. Now, when they say per capita, they didn't say whether it was per capita of the whole population altogether, taken altogether, or whether it was per capita for that specific race, which is what you would assume per capita meant, is per race. Because if you're going to analyze races and actually go there, if you're actually going to go there and do something that's not colorblind and is considered taboo in our society, if you're actually going to analyze murder rates, if you're actually going to analyze it according to race, then you better use the population of that specific race in your calculations. That only makes sense, right? They're claiming they did, and that they're no more likely. Now, CNN was particularly nasty. After they said this about that black people are no more likely than white people. Right now, at this point in history, at this point in time, to commit murder, that the murder rate is equal. They said, we've known this for years. How you people, all of you, we've proved you wrong. You were wrong. We were right. We've known this for years, and we just needed the proof. Now we can prove it because the Justice Department said it. Why is somebody lying to us? Why is somebody lying to us, and who's lying? Is it the FBI? Is it the Justice Department? Who's lying? I want to know who's lying to me and why. Think about this. Which do you think is more likely? You hear about over 1,000 murders on the south side of Chicago every year. When you hear about busting a cap and somebody's ass, busting a cap and getting my gat, and rap called Murder Rate, and you flip on the TV and you know it's a black neighborhood, and you hear about another murder there, and when they show you murder victims, you see mostly black faces. You do see white faces, but you see mostly black faces. And then you hear from a friend about somebody who's died, was black, that's been murdered. Who do you believe? The FBI or the Justice Department? Who do you believe? And certainly the hood has a reputation, does have a reputation for murder. So I'll leave it up to you to decide who's lying or who's telling the truth. You really have no way of proving it. Because you don't know. But maybe, just maybe, these crimes are being swept under the rug in the interest of maintaining good racial relations. They don't want there to be interracial crime. They don't want white on black crime, like the Charleston shooting. They're very concerned about hate groups. And they do have a motive for keeping this a secret, because it could potentially be used by a hate group for nefarious purposes, and that's why they're afraid. That's why they're afraid. And I'm sure that's a legitimate fear, but it's hurting people's lives. And what about the other side? What are conservatives saying? Well, there's been a whiteout. Conservative whites are not talking about this subject at all. It's a whiteout. And even when they give black conservatives a chance to speak, like Trump, he says, we're going to discuss this today, or has someone make an announcement, this is what we're discussing today, we're discussing race. Then Trump starts talking about himself for 15 minutes straight. Then every single black conservative has to do the talking for him, has to do the speaking for him. And even they have to spend at least 5 to 10 minutes kissing his ass. So, but what are black conservatives saying? Well, they're basically pointing fingers. They're saying, you done it. But it's not white people. It's black people. They're pointing the fingers at black people and saying, it's all your fault. Yes, this is a problem. It's been a problem for years. And it's all your fault. Now, they got some good ideas. Certainly, the black conservatives are bringing attention to a very serious issue that needs to be addressed. And they've got some great ideas. They really do. But they're saying it's all your fault. Out of context of history, out of context of slavery, out of context of segregation, out of context of modern racism. All of it, they're saying it's all your fault. Not the way to win friends and influence people, right? And these conservatives who happen to be black are saying that this is what people need to hear. And I think they really believe it. I think they believe that it's for your own good if you're black. I think they think it's for your own good. It's for your own good. It's what the strong medicine that you need. It's for your own good. The only problem with that is that it treats black people like children who don't have minds of their own and can't think for themselves at all. So nobody is really in the right, and there's been a situation with liberals specifically. The situation with liberals is that they've promoted welfare. They haven't allowed people on welfare to save any money for a rainy day or an emergency. That's forbidden. Got people hooked and dependent on welfare who can't save money for a rainy day in case they have an emergency. They're afraid of losing their welfare, so they stay at a very low income and very low assets. They've said about that because of promoting welfare, they've made it a lot easier to be a single mother. So there's been, as a result of making it easier to live off of welfare, there's been a breakdown of the family. The poor whites and black people, their families have broken down. And there's more there's more children born out of wedlock, and there's fewer fathers around. I think it's something like 72%, up to 72%. There's different statistics, different places. Some say 60%. 60 to 72% of all black children are born to single mothers. So there's been a breakdown of the black family that's been major. Back in the 50s, it used to be only 24% were born out of wedlock. And liberals at the same time have said, yeah, that's all right. That's all right. It's just fine being a single mother. We don't need dads. What are dads good for? We don't need dads. I'll tell you something. It's rough. It's really, really rough being a single mother. So they've been hard on the black family. One of the consequences is that the mothers are under so much stress from being single mothers that they abuse and neglect their children. They do drugs sometimes because of the stress. And they neglect and abuse their children sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. And this neglect leads to crime. So liberals have not been all good for African Americans. They have not. They may claim to be good, but they have not, and they've caused a lot of violence. And then what is their solution? They deny the violence. So they've cost a lot of lives, actually. And they hate capitalism and shun capitalism. And as a result of being socialists and shunning capitalism, they've created a situation wherein black people need to deal drugs to survive because liberals have not been job creators at all. They haven't created any new jobs. It's been all conservatives creating jobs. And conservatives, a lot of them are racist, and they're not hiring black people. So liberals have created a horrible, it's just a purgatory for black folk in America. And only the conservatives are taking them on. The black conservatives are taking them on. No one else really cares. White conservatives are afraid of having fingers pointed at them and being accused of racism. They're so afraid. They're shaking in their shoes. They're so afraid. And the first one to shake in his shoes was Reagan. And ever since then, they've had a policy of hands off any subjects related to race. And they haven't been, even though they agree with the black conservatives 100%, they've been avoiding the subject. And they're not necessarily racist. They just believe in rugged individualism and self-actualization. Kanye is a black conservative, and he's running for president now against Trump. He's unhappy with Trump for hiding in his bunker. He thinks he's a coward, and now he's running for president. Look at the Forbes interview. Forbes, Forbes. Forbes interview with Kanye, and then based on that, decide for yourself whether you would vote for Kanye. I will not be voting for Kanye. I think he's unstable. And I think he's got some strange ideas, like he thinks that people are injecting microchips with a vaccine that control your brain and make it so you can't reach God. So he's got some, I don't think so. Methyl mercury, probably. Microchips, no, I don't think so. But so I'll tell you where I'm at. I'm right back where I started over 20 years ago. Um, I'm I'm back to libertarianism. I'm going to make a break with the liberals now over this subject. I'm a one subject voter, right? I'm making a break with the liberals on the subject. A vote for Biden is a vote for the status quo and business as usual. And there's really no difference between him and Trump policy-wise. Biden may have a sweet tongue and speak well, although he doesn't really, because he said some bad things. Like to Charlemagne the God, and the comment about the record player. Go ahead and look those up. He's made some racist comments, and he's been accused by 8 women, and so I can't support Biden anymore. I just don't support him, and I'm switching back to being a libertarian. Just think it's the right thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's time that I made a switch. Didn't realize that my views were considered so conservative. Didn't realize that I would be shunned, accused, ostracized. That's really troubling for me because I hear voices in my head, okay? Sometimes I hear voices in my head, and my father played tapes for me over and over and over, and the tapes were saying, you're a racist, little mama. You're a racist, Moonbeam. You're a racist, my little Moonbeam. You're a racist, little mama. When I read about these people saying that all white people are born racist out of their mother's wombs, I hear my father's words in my head. And I just hate them. I hate them for it. Can't help it. I hate that Robin DiAngelo guy. I can't stand him. So, that's it. Just remember people are dying, and you have to prioritize. What's more important to you? Justice or people's lives? And if you had to choose, which one would you choose? Would you choose lives or would you choose justice? Now here's another conundrum. If you eliminate the police, how will the thousands who are murdered each year ever get any justice? Well, they won't. They won't get justice, and the crimes will go unsolved. And you'll never hear about those murders. They'll go unsolved. And they'll just be stashed away, not in a police drawer, but in a community organizer's drawer. Because they don't have the training to solve crimes. They don't know how to solve crimes or secure a crime scene or any of that. They can't protect EMS workers from being shot at. They can't protect anyone. Community organizers don't have that kind of authority. So without police, there will be a lot more injustice. So just saying that injustice is what you care about doesn't fly, because there will be injustice if you eliminate police. And you really also another thing to think about is that you really can't quantify how many lives are saved by the police each year. But I'm betting that it's probably a lot. I'm betting it's probably a lot because the presence of the police acts as a deterrent to these crimes. People aren't committing the crimes just because they're frustrated by the police. That's somebody's fantasy. That's somebody's nebulous idea, because they hate police so much. They hate the police so much that they think that they cause all problems and that eliminating them is a panacea. But it's just not so. So that's it. There's always going to be murders and murderers. There's always going to be insane people, and when you put a gun in somebody's hand and give them the right to shoot, they're going to shoot. Can't stop that, can't prevent that. There's 700,000 police in America, so it's amazing that there's only about 224 police shootings of African Americans each year. It's quite low. It's quite low. And the number that are considered murders is even lower. Now, you can get all touchy about this and all personal and say every single shooting is a murder and it's justified murder. But when somebody's shooting at your head, don't you think you have the right to self-defense? It all depends on whether you believe in self-defense or whether you're a total pacifist. If you're a total pacifist, which most people aren't, but if you're a total pacifist, then I suppose self-defense would be considered murder to that person. But if you're not a pacifist, shooting in self-defense is a valid point, and the vast majority of these shootings that are shown as these gravestones in this big exhibit. This big exhibit with all these gravestones, and it's not a real graveyard, it's just an exhibit to show how many people are shot. Most of them, the vast majority of them, were shooting at the police at the time. They're trying to kill somebody else. They were trying to kill the police. Police were acting in self-defense or defense of another. So that's it. Just something to think about. There's been a lot. It's been a lot of controversy, and I'm just saying right now, without being opposed to police brutality, while still being opposed to police brutality, I also think that the issue of Black death in general is important, and Black lives are important in general, and that we should be concerned about both. We should be concerned about the police brutality and not condemn all police just because of the actions of a few, but that we should reform the police. We should change our laws in such a way that these unwarranted killings, these murders by the police are rendered totally unacceptable and can't be excused. We should reform our laws, change our laws. There shouldn't be bipartisan bickering, because we, the moderates, are so pissed off at this bipartisan bickering. We're sick of it. We're just so ready to walk away from both parties. We moderates. We'll pick anyone else. I'm picking libertarians. You might pick the Green Party. We're just picking somebody else, somebody other than the mainstream parties, because we're sick of the bipartisanship and the bickering and the war between the two sides, because having two sides only in a dispute creates a war. Fight the good fight, care about others, and don't let people get away with calling you a racist. Stand up for what you believe in and what you think is right. Stand up for people's lives. How can anyone not care about people's lives? If you cost people their lives, you're an accomplice to murder. So, care more about lives than justice specifically, and care about justice also. Get justice for the most people. And I'll see you next time.